Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Here.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes. First on the agenda is public participation. Tom, you're up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Tom Reiniger. I live at 3223 Rocky Hill Drive. First of all, thank you for preparing a detailed agenda. It really is helpful to follow along the actions of the trustees. I wondered if the trustees would consider when detailed graphs and presented for fiscal review by yourself at a meeting, either a work session or this meeting, where they could be displayed up on the screen. I don't know if that technology is available here, but it would allow the audience to just see what's being discussed. I know they're very detailed and you handle a lot of paper. I'm not asking you to generate more paper and hand out charts, but if it could be displayed, something would be helpful for us people sitting out in front. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Procedural action. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-091 to dispense with the reading of the minutes from the June 1st, 2023 regular meeting and the June 15th, 2023 work session. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-092 to approve the minutes of the June 1st, 2023 regular meeting. Need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes. Abstain.
Thank you.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-093 to approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2023 work session. Need a second? Second. Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. In honor of the Ross Hardware's 38-year history of faithful and diligent service to the residents and businesses of Ross Township, I move for the adoption of motion number 23-094 to proclaim the Board of Trustees' sincere gratitude to Ross Hardware owner Roger Venefron and his family for their tireless and dedicated service to Ross Township community. I need a second. Second. Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. If the Venefron family would step up front, please.
Cheers. Or either side. Up here by me. Unfortunately, you're going to be the center of attention. This was the part in high school where I always tried to stay in the back of the class where I wasn't up front for people to see me. That's what we were doing. And I do that. Proclamation by the Board of Trustees of Ross Township, Butler County, Ohio, recognizing Ross Hardware. Whereas on October 1st, 1985, Ross Hardware was established by Roger Venefron at 2651 Cincinnati Brookville Road to serve the residents of Ross Township. And whereas Aaron and Alan Venefron continue to work with their father, Roger, at this time as the business closes, and whereas over its 38-year history, Ross Hardware has faithfully and diligently served the residents and businesses of Ross Township. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Township Trustees, Ross Township, Butler County, Ohio, that said board hereon expresses its sincere gratitude to Ross Hardware owner Roger Venefron and his family for those entire dedicated service to the Ross Township community. In witness whereof, we hereon set our hands and cause the seal of Ross Township, Butler County, Ohio, affixed on this proclamation the 6th day of July 2023. 23.
Appreciate it.
That is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a picture of them up there?
Absolutely.
Back up here.
Done, that's the least we can do, so, yeah.
Right there.
right
Okay.
In the middle there, there.
And move the chair.
Thank you, gentlemen, for all you've done for the community.
It's always a pleasure, whether I needed a half dozen nails or a roll of tape. When I walked in, it was, how you doing today, Keith? Nowhere else can you go and get that kind of courtesy.
Mine was a joy relish.
I saw her come in.
And it's, believe me, with doing a little work in my basement and just odds and ends around the house while I've been on vacation. Just not being able to run down and get something that's not in my toolbox it's hurtful. You will be missed.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. You're welcome.
Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're missing some chairs.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
One big shot.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, you're more than welcome to stick around for the remainder of the meeting, which at this point will just be normal business, or go enjoy an ice cream and.
I gotta go to another job.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have to follow that.
Chief Burton Roberts presents new full-time officer Madison Steppel for hire. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-095 to hire Madison Stoppel into the position of full-time police officer at a rate of $27.04 per hour. This employment is subject to the completion of all pre-employment testing and in accordance with the current staffing summary and pay rate resolution. I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion, roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Now we will swear in new full-time police officer Madison Stepp.
Move the chairs once again. Okay, remember. Give him a second. Don't want him to. Okay. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Madison Steppel,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions of Ross Township, Butler County, Ohio.
and the laws and resolutions of Ross Township, Butler County, Ohio.
And to the best of my ability,
And to the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties of
will discharge the duties of
police officer constable for Ross Township.
the police officer constable for Ross Township.
Congratulations. Two trustees. John? And parents or family that wish to take a picture.
Thank you.
They'll all go up. No, we'll take. With these iPhones or both? They're all. Oh, good.
What's your,
First call.
whatever you need.
So sorry.
Emily first. I need bleachers. Oh, there's a lot of people.
Our goal is to get you between the flags, but that may not work.
This is definitely gonna be an all in mill event.
Let's hire people off the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a ticket to club. Come down.
Uh-oh. Somebody's got low battery.
Uh-oh. All right, yes, you can. Two on yours. And then what the police call the chief and sergeant.
Like homework is.
Boy, boy.
Yeah.
Been summoned back to the table.
Get up like.
Big guy, he cried. Yeah. Tallest man in the room.
I did it.
You got that one, let me, this is family stuff. Okay, I got two on this one.
Anybody else?
Got here just in time.
Is that a flip phone?
It is a flip phone.
I don't know whose this is.
Got more. Oh, got more family. Hold on. Let me grab my phone. Hold on. This could be like a Guinness record.
Crazy. I didn't think they did flip phones out.
Do you need me to take one in your stuff?
Sure. That's a real phone. You know how to work that.
Stop it. That's not it. It's a super zoomed in.
Yeah.
Hold it. Switching phone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good flip.
Madison, did everybody stand up here with you tonight? Did they help you with your notebook? Were they all present for that?
Is she the first female officer?
Got it?
But currently the only female.
Smiled out, right?
Males in the past.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Russell.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
And if Madison's family would like to stick around for the remainder of the business meeting, they're more than welcome, or
Thank you.
Thank you.
go ahead and exit. Everybody sticking around?
What they're in for.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is tax budget hearing. Move for the adoption of motion 23-096 to open the public hearing on the 2024 tax budget. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes. Fiscal officer's report.
Do you want me to do we actually have to discuss the tax budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds like a winner.
There we go. So I'm fairly certain you would have received the rather lengthy attachment, which is the tax budget for the tax year or for 24 calendar year. This is for the shorthand version for our two newer trustees. This is our best guess of what our tax budget is going to be next year. We look at the revenue streams, and at the time, we only had through May to look at, but now I've been able to kind of add in through June. And in the prior to me, it was a really low ball, bare minimum. And then first thing out of the gate, we'd have to do an amended certificate in January to get it where we need to be. So I take a little more strenuous look at it and try to get it as realistic as we can, but we don't know everything. For example, on the expenditure side, the contracts for the road department haven't been factored in yet. We cannot factor in the pending levy renewal. We can't, we just have to do with what we know we have right as of right now. So it's a work in progress. What will happen after we adopt this tax budget? It gets submitted to the county auditor, budget commission department. They will look at it. They will then send us our amounts and rates for next year. Again, not with the new levy or the renewal, just as it exists right now. And then the next step after that, they will send us an original certificate, which is what we start our year with. Now, it can be amended, it can be adapted, but this is our best guess. I also prepared for you in your giant pile 2024 calendar year temporary tax budget, and this is kind of a extremely condensed version by fund. What you were given an email is 44 pages long, and it's every fund, every line item, and it's rather cumbersome to look at. This is very comparable to what we did for 23. The only thing I would point out to you is the police district. I apologize, not that one. The fund number 2274 ARPA Ohio, that is the LE, that is the grant that we received through the state of Ohio out of Ohio ARPA funds to hire new officers. We have like $200,000 of that still available. I kind of guessed with the swearing in of our new officer tonight, approximately what we would spend, guessing we might carry over 175,000. So that line item is definitely in motion. We will have to spend the balance of it by the end of 24. So regardless of what we carry over, it will all get spent.
That's spent on.
It's on we're strictly hiring we were allowed to hire 2 officers under the ARPA violence grant. So this will be salary, OPERS, Medicaid, and benefits. So we will just use it till it runs out. I kind of tried to guess what I thought we might use this calendar year. So again, it's a very fluid tax budget. We've been in this, all funds, all carryovers, we've been in the $6 million range since I've been in office. I took office in 2020, and I believe we were in the $6 million range prior to me. So this is not, this is a pretty run-of-the-mill, average-looking budget for us. And then I did estimated expenditures, again, not thinking about things, equipment going wrong. Again, no pavement contracts in here. This is just bare bones. So this is my belief of how we're going to shake out. But again, it's just the structure that gets us going. And then towards the end of this year, November, we will adopt a permanent revenue budget, and we will adopt permanent appropriations. Even into next year, we won't adopt permanent appropriations till like March. Once the year's closed, 23 is closed, and we kind of know where we are, we'll adopt permanent. So this, what we're doing, the purpose of tonight is we are adopting the tax budget for the revenue, and we're also doing temporary appropriations, and this will carry us through the end of the year. And we have the ability to amend it as we go. So. And if you look at the 44 page, it gives you a 2-year look. Actually, it gives you a 3-year look back, the current year plus 2 years. So it kind of lets you see where we are. Line item by line item. So I didn't know if you had questions about that.
Question on 2274.
Okay.
That's ARPA money being used for the 2 officer salary. What happens when that ARPA money is gone?
Then we go into the other salary bucket. That would be the 2081 police district will kick in from that. We're just spending this until it's gone.
Okay. The 2081 will afford that?
Yes. Yes. And again, keep in mind, this is not anything that's up for election in November. This is not that. This is just if everything,
What we have now.
right, what we have now going forward, anticipating that nothing's going to change. So. And then some of these funds are where you see a lot of zeros. We don't typically get a lot of, we will not get any additional revenue in the normal ARPA bucket. I don't anticipate revenue under the shop with a cop, fish with a cop. If we get money, then we have to amend our certificate in order to spend it. So these are just, this is just the perfunctory step that we have to take to comply with Ohio Revised Code. But it's a good exercise because it gets you thinking early in the year what your budget's going to be, and it doesn't allow you to scramble. It kind of forces you to look at stuff now so that you're prepared later in the year when we actually get into the budgeting process. Okay. If there are no questions.
I have none.
Okay. You can close the hearing, I suppose.
Okay, move for the adoption of motion number 23-097 to close the public hearing on the 2024 tax budget. I need a second. Discussion, roll call.
Trustee McGurran?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Blower?
Yes. Fiscal officers report.
Okay. Let me talk and just keep talking. For you to review and to sign are the certification of checks written the last meeting and certification of purchase orders issued since the last meeting. I also have for you, in report form in front of you several reports. There is the revenue summary as of June 30th. And keep in mind, we're 50% through the year. So we are on a revenue basis, we are doing very well. There's also a fund summary that's also through the month of June. And then there is finally an appropriation status report, which is slightly more detailed. And again, we're 50% through the year. So this is our expenditures by fund and by line item. And then for you to review, and then for Keith to sign would be the May credit card attestation, keeping in mind that this report still shows trustee Patterson or former trustee Patterson on there, and trustee McGurran is not yet on here. So that is for to sign. And then I have for you to sign and review the June 2023 bank reconciliation. In all of the fun and excitement with converting the full-time police officers from OPERS Gov to OPERS LE, there were payments that had to be made, and essentially there was an overpayment of $1,300 that OPERS is going to be issuing a check for. They said it might take 8 to 10 business days, but it didn't allow for this bank reconciliation to get closed. So there is there's a reconciliation note of the $1,300. Now that I'm into July, this bank reconciliation, this out of balance issue is still there. Once I get the check from OPERS, we will be good to go and life will be moved on. And on that note, to the best of my ability, we have paid everything that we owe to OPERS, to the LE for the law enforcement division. And I think we are where we should be, solid from this point forward. So I'm just waiting to hear from them. And then finally, that would be it from me as far as reports and things that I need signatures on. And then again, we have coming up the resolution to actually adopt the tax budget. So if you have questions, again, you can ask at that point. And that would be it from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After consideration of all discussion during the public hearing earlier in this meeting, the following resolution adopts the tax budget and makes the temporary appropriation of funds for expenditures for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2024. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-033, adopting the tax budget and making the temporary appropriations of funds for expenditures for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2024, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.14, 5705.28, 5705.29, 5705.30, and 5705.38. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Purpose approve to pay the bills. Move for the adoption of motion 23-098 to pay the bills as presented through the fiscal officer's certification of purchase orders. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Administrator Lori Kyle.
Good evening. Tonight, administration has 6 resolutions for your consideration. A couple of them are grouped together, so I'll review them as they correspond to each other. You can discuss and vote, and then we'll move on to the next ones. The first 2 have to do with levies to proceed for 2 levies for the police department. The first is for the renewal of the current 3.75 mil levy and to make it continuous. And the second is for an additional 1.5 mils. Do you have any questions about either of those resolutions? They were prepared by the Butler County Prosecutor's Office, and you will see the exhibit contains actual wording for each that will be on the ballot.
I have none.
Okay. Did you want to go ahead and vote on those?
Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-034, determining to proceed with the submitting the question of a tax levy for the police protection. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. At resolution 2023-031, in an effort to keep the police department fully self-sufficient, the board declared the necessity to add an additional 1.5 mil of new levy. The Butler County Auditor provided the necessary certificate of estimate property tax revenue dated June 23rd, 2023, and the prosecutor prepared the following resolution to proceed with the tax by placing the levy on the November general election ballot. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-035, determining to proceed with the submitting the question of tax levy for the police protection. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran. Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Due to being deemed unsafe, unsecure, and structurally effective to such an extent to represent a direct and real threat to public health and safety, the Ross Township Board of Trustees desire to pursue legal action seeking demolition of 2231 Robin Avenue. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-036, declaring the existence of an unsafe, unsecure, and structurally defective building at 2231 Robin Avenue. The intention to pursue legal action seeking an injunction or other appropriate relief in a court common jurisdiction, requesting the assistance of the Butler County Prosecutor's Office and authorizing the retainer of title examiner. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. The Ross Township Board of Trustees desire to establish a Public Safety Advisory Committee and a Fiscal Oversight Advisory Committee to act as advisory bodies to the Board of Trustees. The advisory committees shall have no independent authority to act on behalf of the township. The Board of Trustees retain the ultimate responsibility for the township's decision, making all matters of policy and operation. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-037 to establish a public safety advisory committee. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? And once I find a note that I brought with me, I'll have discussion.
Discussion?
Yes.
Or is everyone in place? Did we contact the?
Well, I haven't.
Okay.
I did send to you what the prosecutor's response when I asked him if these are official meetings, exactly what we would need to do. And his guidance was that they could be seen as quasi-governmental,
Right.
since the committees were formed under the instruction of the Board of Trustees. They will be reporting back to the Board of Trustees. So he did recommend that we follow the rules of the Open Meetings Act. So we do publicize the meetings. There'll need to be minutes for the meetings. The public, it's public participation will not be required, but they do need to be made aware of those meetings. He also strongly recommended that the trustees understand that these committees can, as he said, quote, go down rabbit holes. And that structure, what you want them to do would be advised by him. So I believe that is why Trustee Blower must have a little more discussion after the prosecutor's reaction to these committees. The prosecutor he's the assistant prosecutor, Dan Ferguson, indicated to me he's not aware of any other township that has these types of committees.
Okay.
And he just wanted to make sure that trustees were aware that it could get a little. And he also indicated that because they are not required under statute, that we could not seek any legal guidance for those advisory committees from the prosecutor's office.
And that's basically what I was going to speak of is I seen this from the prosecutor's office, and there's just quite a few parts of this that I'm not real happy about it becoming public records, which means we have to present it as an open meeting like this, which if and when they did meet would probably be upon our work session, which would take away from different aspects of that meeting and possibly bring a department head in here that didn't have anything to address the board that night. And executive session, I also spoke that we were moving forward with something that was brought up by a trustee that is no longer here. We didn't really have a beginning format. We didn't really have a structure of where it was going. And at the same time, we didn't talk to our fire chief or police chief to see their interest in this, because this would require their time. So that was my thoughts then. And then this came from our prosecutor's office. And I got to say, I don't think I'm going to move forward with this tonight. In the prosecutor's office that night, or in this, he states that he's not really sure this is a great idea on a legal behalf from their office. So that's really all I've got of my thoughts and ideas on that. Anything from anybody else?
I tend to agree with you, but if it were to move forward, they would probably need to refrain from making any public comments, paper or social media or anything like that. Sure. Without us knowing.
Yeah, it seems like the prosecutor's office had a lot of downside on it. And I'm just thinking of, if we could supplement this some other way, public participation, just at a regular trustees meeting, I think, might be a step in the right direction. But, if we can, just have the community feel comfortable coming in and participating during public participation, maybe that would be, a step in the right direction. I think our intention of this is transparency, right? I want to keep pushing with as much transparency as we can. And if we could do it through public participation, I'm okay with that.
Did the prosecutor give you any idea of what kind of legal things we could run into other than?
No, he gave an example to me though of a similar group that was meeting on behalf of the county. And he was actually walking down a hall and they got his attention and wanted to ask him a question. And he told them, he said, I can't help you because statutorily, you're not under me. So, and he was just concerned that they would start to go down avenues that the board isn't necessarily interested in pursuing at that time. And then when the advisory committees would come back to the board, just making sure that the advisory committees were aware that they were truly only providing recommendations, not required actions of the trustees, that the trustees were elected for guidance, not the advisory committees.
Your point is they can do that in public participation.
Right. I think one other thing we got to look at too is right now our police chief has formed a police levy committee and his time is taken up with guidance of that committee and working on the police renewal levy and the additional. So his summer is very busy and his fall up until first week in November. So with saying that, we will, if none of the other two trustees.
Motion on the floor, so you still have to
Yes.
call a vote.
Yes,
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm rolling that way as I give everybody an opportunity.
My apologies.
Anybody else? Okay, so we're at resolution 2023-037. We've gone through the motion and discussion. Roll call, please.
Trustee McGurran,
Voting that we just went through the motion or?
Yes or no?
Okay. Yes or no to what?
Whether we go ahead and move forward with this committee or not.
Okay, no.
Trustee Fisher,
No.
Trustee Blower.
No. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-038 to establish a fiscal oversight advisory committee. I need a second.
Do you really want to?
We can let this die on the floor with no second.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no second for resolution 2023-038, that resolution dies on the floor.
Okay, great.
Purpose, the township administrator has provided evidence of nuisance violation to exist at a property on Beechwood Drive. This resolution declares that property to be a nuisance and orders its abatement. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-039, declaring a nuisance for excessive debris and junk motor vehicle at 2242 Beechwood Drive. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran. Yes. Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Purpose, updated land use plan response from the Butler County Planning Commission.
I've provided to the trustees the response from the Butler County Planning Commission in regards to their review of the proposed updated land use plan. I believe I informed you I was provided these comments and questions the day before the Planning Commission's meeting. I had arranged for our consultant, Wendy Moeller, to join me, so I told her she did not need to attend. I simply went to let the Planning Commission be aware that I would turn these questions over for consideration to the Board of Trustees. And in the meantime, Wendy has responded to their questions and concerns. So the board needs to decide how you would like to move forward to address, how you would like to respond to the Planning Commission in regards to their concerns. The Planning Commission felt as though it would be best to reconvene what was the Ross Township Zoning Commission to have some public input on these. I did inform them at the time that there were multiple public hearings in regards to the land use plan update, including a recent one that was not required, but just due to the length of time that this has been in process to get a more recent public hearing. So I did let them know there has been quite a bit of public participation or the ability to have public comment on these questions and concerns. So we do need to provide a response to these. Trustee Fisher has informed us, due to his role at the county level zoning, that the staff for the zoning commission has resigned. So that department will be in a little state of flux for a while until they have identified his replacement. So I don't believe, not that there was a rush before, but there certainly is no hurry to get this taken care of now. So either, since Trustee Fisher was on the Ross Township Zoning Commission, I don't know if he feels as though he could speak on behalf of the zoning commission at some point to review these, and then the board could decide if it is necessary to reconvene. We could have Wendy, ask Wendy to come. Maybe she could come to a work session. There's quite a few avenues to move forward.
I mean, my first thought on it is that that panel that was put together, I mean, it was voted down. So, I mean, I don't really understand the significance of that to this process.
They just felt that having some public opinion on the planning commission's responses would be provide a broader aspect than just the trustees' responses.
Okay.
Didn't we do that at Station 2? Didn't we have a?
Yes, and
So they were good there.
we are, however, now in response to the Butler County Planning Commission's questions and concerns. Does the board want to address them, or would you like to have some additional residents weigh in on these concerns? And since there is a group that's already discussed these topics and are aware of the basis of why the township submitted the plan the way that we did, do you want to go back to those residents or a new group?
That's an idea, John.
Yeah, right. And I'm just thinking that, I mean, that group was, we have members of that group that, were defined, obviously, but I still don't understand the significance of, what, maybe just taking it back to the community, might be a better idea. I don't understand why it should be kind of to that group of people.
Oh,
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
We could have if we need to have another township meeting and have these as, concerns, and then get the entire community's input on these concerns. If that's what they need, I guess we need to fulfill that, right?
Is there a time limit to this, like when this?
no, like I indicated, their staff has reached
Maybe,
last day is the middle of this month, I believe.
yeah.
So
Maybe to get some more thought to it and
I was gonna-
session.
I was going to say, we could maybe whittle this down some in a work session.
Wouldn't mind talking to Wendy too. What do
Yeah,
Do you want me to ask Wendy if she could come to a work session?
that would be great.
Okay.
That's a good starting point. And this was from Zeb and Dave that responded with the,
They said it was a staff report.
okay.
So they make it sound like a group of people, but isn't the staff just Zeb?
Right, yes. Okay, yeah, let's maybe start, if it's okay with the board, to have Wendy come to a work session and hear from her firsthand and take it from there.
Okay.
I read over this the other day. Seems to be rather in touch with how Ross residents kind of want Ross to look or stay. Just by our comments here, I think that's. See. She's paid some attention to that, as they have, as a county have.
Thanks.
Okay.
And then finally in your packet is nuisances update. That's all administration has this evening.
So I'm going to refer to 4222 Oriole. I got a phone call from somebody who lives close to that address, and they thought it had already gone to sheriff's sale, but as of 6/22, we're 10 weeks out from that sale.
Yes, that's what the land bank predicts.
See if I got any questions on anything else. Have none, the rest of the board?
Nothing from me.
Anything further for the administrator? Thanks, Lori.
You're welcome.
Move on to the fire department report. Assistant Chief Chris Johns.
I just have a couple of things for the board. Provide the board report prepared from Chief Miller for incidents for June. We had a total of 95 calls, 65 EMS calls, 30 were fire calls. There's also a breakdown of the incident types in the paperwork I provided you. The other thing on the list is our installation from Inspiration Studios. So our training room will be getting a mural completed from Inspiration Studios, which I believe works with developmentally disabled adults. And they received a grant from the Ross Community Foundation to fund this mural. They'll plan on starting the week of August 7th, about 3 weeks to complete it. There'll be, from the email that he sent, it looks like there's going to be some glass mosaic work also, and then a mural painted on the wall of the training room at Station 2. I believe we'll have maybe some depiction of our patch and logo and some of our apparatus on there. So I think it's a pretty neat thing that they're going to be doing for us. One other thing that's not on the list that he wanted me to bring up, the last meeting we brought 3 personnel to the board to hire for part-time firefighter EMTs. Only one of those 3 did accept the job offer. One accepted a full-time job offer elsewhere, and the other one has not returned our calls. That's where it stands with that. That's all I have for the board.
And congratulations to Chief Miller for his being recognized at the
Yeah, the Reds game.
Reds game. Yeah, I saw that. Well deserved.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Road department, I'll read that off since Paul is not here this evening. 2024 pavement recommendations utilizing $274,000 from the county ARPA fund. In 2023, the cost of 1 mile of paving with repairs was approximately $189,000. For 2024, Mr. Bulak's ideas for repaving is Windy Knoll Drive, Clink Place, which is a short street off of Windy Knoll Drive, Lark Street from Cincinnati Brookville to Thrush Avenue, and Davis Road, which is off of Ross Hanover on the far end of the township. Black Mountain Micro Surfacing will be Mardell Court. And that's all Paul sent to the board. Next up is Police Chief Roberts.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna skip past the monthly stats. I'm gonna come back to that and finish that, but Officer Little and Sergeant Rogers assisted in the law camp. That's a camp that takes place here within Butler County. Multiple agencies are involved in that. A lot of kids show up. The graduation's a pretty big event in Butler County. So I thought that was pretty good that we get asked to participate in that every year. I was also asked to read to some 5-year-olds. That was quite interesting. They will ask you some interesting questions. You have to be on your toes when you're dealing with some 5-year-olds. So I thought that was very interesting.
They take them that young? I thought they were cut off like fourth grade.
I got nothing, but it was interesting. So yeah, it was a good time. And finally, so you have the monthly report for June, our stats.
I do not.
I'll give it to you when I get done, but I thought I gave one for everybody. I apologize. So our calls for service for the month was 515. We took 19 auto accidents, had 30 incidents, wrote 43 citations, 11 warnings, arrested 8 adults. We had 1 burglary, dealt with 14 emotionally disturbed persons, had 5 warrant arrests.
Sorry, I do.
You do have it?
It was up front. I apologize.
That's okay. 98 business checks, and we did 15 vacation checks. That was for the month of June. I was asked to provide the stats for the past 3 years for the first 6 months just to see where we were. For the year of 2021, at this same time frame, we had responded to 3,700 calls for service. In 22, it was just over 4,000. And so far in 2023, we've responded to 3,300 calls for service. But with that being said, I broke it down even farther. Of those calls for service that we responded to, that would require 2 officers to actually respond to the calls, not just your general call for service, but calls that would require 2 officers, have greatly increased. In 21, we went to 419 calls that would have been requiring 2 officers. And 22 is 369. So far in 2023, we have gone to 648 calls that would have required 2 officers when it comes to officer safety to respond to the calls. And I broke it down as to the types of calls that I listed that would be typically 2 officer calls for service. There was others that are hit or miss, but are generally ones that we respond to on a more frequent basis. That these are the calls that I chose.
Keith, question. What determines 2 officers?
So some of the types of calls would be 911 calls, alarms, businesses or residential, burglaries or breaking and entering, any domestics, drug-related calls, fights, accidents where you have multiple injuries, overdoses, suicides, emotionally disturbed calls when we enforce TPOs. Anytime we get shots fired, suspicious vehicles or persons, unwanted persons, or anytime we do any warrants. So, sorry, I should have clarified that. So that's what I listed.
Busy.
I'm sorry.
This young lady's coming.
She's coming in at a good time. I mean, there's been some other calls like this past month we had a stabbing, but we don't have a stabbing every month, so I couldn't list every specific call. We haven't had one in the last 2 years, but we've had some shootings over the last few years. So I mean, those are somewhat random or whatever. So I didn't, if it wasn't calls that we went on that we don't respond to on a regular basis or whatever, I didn't just throw that in there for 2 officer calls. But there are other that do require officers that are called. And sometimes we go and we help the county because they get shorthanded as well. So we'll go out there, Morgan, Riley, Hanover, whatever. If they're shorthanded, we'll go out there and help them as well. So it goes both ways.
Are those listed on here when there's?
I did not. I don't know how I will have to get with our record management system to see calls that if we go outside the county to help them, but I know they happen because I just spoke with Officer Prophet a couple of days ago because he's been out helping on night shift with them. So I can get those calls that will help out as well.
The uptick in suspicious person vehicles, that's a pretty big increase. And the 911 calls, what do you attribute that to?
I don't know if it's the updates with the Apple or Samsung phones. I mean, seriously, they've done these updates and it has been a nonstop, not just with us, but I talked with the county. It has been nonstop, but unfortunately, we don't get to pick and choose. And we can't get complacent. Oh, it's just a typical 911 because as soon as it's not your typical 911 and something bad happens, then, but yeah, I mean, we have been getting crushed with these 911 calls. I mean, 198 when we
2
And
years
last
ago,
year,
27.
yeah. So I mean, it has just been ridiculous. And some of them are, we'll just get calls like they're in a general vicinity, the 1100 block of a street or something like that. So I mean, it can be very difficult to even try and track down where the phone call is coming from.
Sometimes they'll pinpoint somebody's address.
Mhm.
That number's not even related to that.
Right.
You go knock on their door, they're buying a house, with a car driving by.
Mhm.
And you don't know where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten quite a few up at Big Bulls while customers are eating and stuff like that. And it's sort of like, I mean, we have no idea. But once again, I mean, we don't get to pick and choose. So we don't know when it's going to be legit and not. So I don't have an answer for you. I mean, other than the cell phone companies, hopefully they can figure this out with this update here for why this is happening. I know with iPhones or whatever, they were having some problems with at like amusement parks and stuff like that, that certain things would trigger 911 calls while they're on roller coaster rides and stuff. So, I mean, with technology, it's great, but it's not great when it doesn't work and it doesn't work properly because it's taking resources away from not only obviously Ross, but law enforcement, maybe even the fire side as well. So, I mean, it depletes us when we could be doing other things.
And it's a third of those calls.
Right,
And it's a sevenfold increase in 2 years.
right. And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon, unfortunately. Like I said, until somebody comes up with a solution for, I don't know what the update is that they did with the cell phones. Does anybody else have any questions on the numbers?
I do not.
And told Trustee Fisher, we just had a update to our record management system that's going to provide more graphs and crime stats and locations and stuff like that. So they're still working out some of the kinks with that, but I will start providing you that information each month too. So it shows specific locations and times and stuff like, give you a better idea as to what's taking place and where it's taking place at the time. So I think it'll be very beneficial for us. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
Very good. Thank you.
Moving on to township business, old business, none from the administration, anything from the board. New business, police levy trustee statement review. Is that the sheet of paper that you handed us that one there?
Yes.
Are we gonna read that or is that just that you sent it to us?
Suggested that the board come up with a statement in regards to the two levies, which is a fabulous idea. So he wrote something. I sent it to the prosecutor's office just to make sure that the board wasn't crossing any lines that they shouldn't. And so this is what the prosecutor has revised the statement.
This is the shredded version.
Very much so, unfortunately. So it's just for the board to discuss if you would like this to be your statement in regards to the two levies.
And how would we use this statement?
I will post it on the website most definitely, but
There's there to fall back on if we need it.
correct, sort of your elevator speech.
If we're, a lot of the things that they said were, had to do with us stating our opinion on it. If we are asked our opinion from someone, is that off limits too?
I wouldn't see how. Your opinion.
I think if you're in your own space, if you're not
Yes.
outside of a meeting on your own time, you as a voter.
Not speaking for the board.
Correct, yes, correct, as long as you preface it with, I'm not speaking for the board. But I believe this is intended just to state the facts.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very well said.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I think it's very factual. There's nothing, no downside to this. It's, yeah, just the facts, right?
the one thing that he did recommend was, just making sure that you wanted to equate it to a home's value of $215,000. If you used 100,000, it's a little quicker math. But I think the 215 is probably a little more realistic. So it's just whatever dollar amount you want to use, and then we need to make sure that then the cost is correct.
I think that fiscal officer Smith came up with that being, was that the median or median?
It was the median and the 118. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not. Because now the certificate from the auditor now includes the cost on $100,000 home. And initially, the prosecutor recommended that we stick with the verbiage that the auditor provided. And then we don't do the math outside, but I would have to run that to double dog check that. But I believe that is fairly consistent with what I had calculated in the past. Can't find my papers, but I don't want to swear on it. Yes, that is accurate.
Really, the semantics of it, just that last sentence, I don't think the years 23 through 27 should be after the dollar amount. You're with an assessed home value of 215 would be 112 a year, 4 years, 23 through 27.
And that really should say tax years because that's tax years 23.
I mean, I think,
It's really 24 through 28.
but I'm okay with it if it's been approved this way. I think tax years and putting the dates after the dollar amount would be more precise.
The reference of a $215,000.
Okay with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Either way.
Okay. I'll confirm the amount, make this revision for the tax years and remove the draft, and I'll send it out to each of you.
Anything more from the board?
Would you like for me to, I could submit this to the Cornerstone as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the more people that know.
I would
Or a little closer to the.
wait a little bit, as in any campaign, be it political or the police levy. Unless we paid for the Cornerstone to run it every month, people tend to forget. You want it fresh in their mind as they're ready to go to the polls. A lot of things to do is really real tight in October, where you really bear down on your issue. So it's fresh in people's mind as that November date approaches. So maybe a little early. I know it's not press time for July, but maybe start that in for the September, maybe if you want it, or the chief want it. Actually,
I mean,
August, September,
I mean, if
October.
you start putting out information too soon, I agree. Some people are just going to totally forget about it by then, but definitely, I mean, we have other things that we're working on already here to get the information out, but I won't put up
Months in a row? October or September, October
for
that.
yes,
Cornerstone?
that's fine. Yeah, because we're going to have some social media stuff and other places that we're going to be advertising as well. So
Okay.
Do we encourage in the social media part of it, do we encourage people to call and ask? And who do they call and ask? Do they ask you or Lori?
Really? The committee email?
yeah, I mean, so that we have two people that are spearheading it. Don and Don Bennett. Don is a retired fire chief from Fairfield. He's one of the co-chairs. That's going to be, so they would, because we are really limited on, especially me being salary, that when I can answer questions and all I can do is give people the facts, sort of like what that says. I can't say vote yes or whatever, but I just give them the information. I mean, they can call me and ask me information. I can give them the information like what that sheet says. So, but I would recommend, and they're going to come up with a Facebook page and other things. And Mr. Bowling, you might be able to add a little bit more to it because he's involved with the levy committee, but those would be essentially the people that are would be better to answer those questions for him. So it doesn't get into that gray area
Regarding questions through social media, you don't know who's asking.
Right.
And that kind of concerns me that that person can be unidentified. It could be one of your greatest detractors doing nothing but trying to make you look wrong or stupid or something. So I encourage everybody to come to this meeting and say what they have to say and ask what they have to ask. You don't want to hide anything, but if you don't know where that question is coming from, I have a big concern about that. But if they want to identify themselves and get an answer, fine, give them an answer. And, you know, some things you might need to check with Laurie and the prosecutor and those kind of things. I guess I wouldn't encourage it. Is what I'm saying. But everybody gets their answer that has a question, that identifies themselves.
One of the concerns that Lauer had was that do we do one or two levy or issues on the ballot? Am I right about that?
That's already set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think making sure that people are made aware that the 3.75 is renewing the current levy. It is
Right.
not costing more money. Am I correct? Okay. I think that's important. That's almost a separate.
I brought it up in the committee meeting last week. That is a no new taxes
Right.
issue. And that we have, I think we have to decide what kind of language and how you want to put that out in a flyer.
Mhm.
I've talked with somewhat the state about talking with our Board of Elections and getting a township voting roster, if you will, so we can direct mail people and get that information out to them. But I agree with your premise.
There.
And I've talked with 3 businesses this week who have agreed to contribute and explain to them, you know, one levy is no new taxes. You're paying that dollars now. We need that to continue our police department, and the other is for enhancement. And I think the information that the chief put out tonight, you said 7-fold increase in calls. Our community needs to know that. And that's going on, you know, so.
Those are calls from the public. That's not officer initiated event.
Yeah, none of these are self-initiated, other than the traffic stops. Obviously, those are self-initiated, but those other calls, those are all generated through the comm center.
Is that public knowledge about all these calls?
We put it out, I mean, every month we put out our stats and we put it on our Facebook page and we publish it in the journal and the Cornerstone. So we put out the stats every month here to make people aware of the calls for service that we go on. How often people read those, I don't know, but we put everything out there, just like Trustee Fisher was saying, to be transparent. And I encourage anybody, I put out my phone number all the time. Give me a call if you have any questions. I'll answer any questions when it comes to what we do. And like I said, I don't think most people realize in Ross Township, you have one officer for 36 square miles working. We work 12-hour shifts, so you have one officer. So if we have to go to Butler County to back them up and all that, you have nobody in Ross Township. If we take somebody to the jail, depending on how busy the jail is, we could be gone, leaving Ross Township vacant for half an hour, 45 minutes. So you have nobody in here. That's why we're trying to get these officers in place and getting the levy and the funding and all that, because you need to have, especially in today's day and age. I mean, we know how law enforcement is and the perception and stuff like that. And we have a lot of support within this community, which I am very thankful for. But I mean, you still need to have more than one officer working on the road in Ross Township at a time.
Anything else under the police levy for new business? Any other new business? Okay, one thing I wanted to bring before the board, get permission, is in our back lot. I'm sure both of you know that the police department is working in conjunction with a business called Norse Tactical, where we have 3 old garage bays back there built for SWAT training. Our local area SWAT, Butler County, with other outside agencies also on that team, train twice a month, and Norse Tactical brings other businesses in. Last week or the week before, Covington was here. And they brought about 15 cruisers, and they're all packed in the back lot. there is a small chain link fence that was left over from the car dealership. I'd like to have that removed, because when you come in the lot, you make a left and there's like a gate to go through to get to the larger lot. The fence is in the way, the posts are in the way. I can remove the fence and then it can go to the scrapyard with a lot of other material that is, has no use, that can go be scrapped. But we'll have to ask for our road department to come and pull the post out with the Bobcat. If you both agree, then I'd like to go ahead and remove that fence that has no use. Open up the parking lot a little bit.
Do you perceive that as a security issue, chief?
Oh, no, I see it as a hindrance.
I think it's separated new cars from cars being worked on.
Yeah,
Back in the day.
I mean, you could literally step over it.
Yes, it's
not
it
that high.
kind of leans a little bit.
Thank you for getting rid of it.
Yes.
The only thing I think I will do is get a quart of yellow paint, and because we know how police officers drive, and paint that concrete around that one light post yellow so nobody bumps into it. It was, I say that because even yellow, back at the old building, there was one or two times that a cruiser was scuffed backing into the building, even though the post was yellow. Was not me. It was not me.
Find that hard to believe.
It was not. I know the officer's name. I'm just not going to say it. Okay, if there's no more township new business, we'll move on to announcements. A farewell party for Matt Havercoast, Butler County Emergency Management Agency Deputy Director, will be held on July 13th, 2023 from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Butler County Emergency Management Emergency Operations Center, 1810 Princeton Road, Hamilton, Ohio. Anything from the board?
Jim Poland will be his replacement if you did not know that.
That is the gentleman with the full beard that usually is with him?
Yes.
Another good man. Correspondence, nothing from the administration, anything from the board?
No.
I did receive something from someone, and Administrator Kyle was able to help me out on it. There was a question from someone that said, I was told Ross Township had a rule regarding the care and maintenance of a fence line between neighbors. Could you provide me any details? I did respond to her. Administrator Kyle sent me information from 2013 where there was a dispute on Hamilton Scipio due to cattle continually breaking through the fence. I did tell them that Ross does not specifically have a stated rule. I referred them to that link. I don't know if they are here tonight. Apparently it's a maintenance question on the fence that might be getting knocked down. I did refer her to the ORC that spoke to that. And it was ORC 971. It addresses the issue of fencing and was hopeful that the situation could be peacefully remedied between neighbors. I haven't heard from her since. It's the only correspondence I've had.
Okay, thank you. Topics for our next work session will be administration building, police station roof, building use policy, education expense reimbursement policy, anything additional from the board.
No.
Future work sessions, crisis communication, anything from the board.
No.
And the crisis communication was brought up by Administrator Lori Kyle on multiple agency meeting on who does what is their responsibility, what is the township trustees' responsibility, fiscal officer's responsibility, and because thankfully you've probably never had to go through the courses. It's all, a lot of that is stated in the FEMA courses that are, I say, brutal to go through. And it states what a trustee's objective is and where we try to get emergency monies for hurricane, tornado, cloudburst. And Lori wanted to gain information like that in the near future, correct?
Correct, but even sort of phase 1A would be when the crisis occurs.
Okay.
What is communicated, who is communicated, how is it disseminated, correct. And then the next, 1B would be, who deals with what?
It's an excellent idea.
We're talking about media and responding to public.
Just no comment doesn't cut it anymore.
No, and tonight on the news was when the tornado went through on the east part of town. There was, and where they're at in the building process with their school and residential areas. So, yeah. Look forward to that occurring in the future. Closing action. Is there any further business to come before the board? Move for the adoption of motion number 23-099 to retire to executive session to discuss the compensation of a public employee and to consider confidential information related to the specific business strategies of an applicant for economic development assistance accordance with Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G8. And the time is 7:15. I need a second. Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
You want to go ahead and announce the-
I'm going to announce the next meeting. Most people won't stick around. When we return from executive session, there will be no more further business to occur for Ross Township. We will just close the meeting out and adjourn. Our next work session is July 20th at 6 PM. Right here. Board of Trustees meeting for August 3rd at 6 PM. Also at the Government Services Building. Thank you all for coming, supporting Ross Township's newest officer. And we will hold our executive session right here. How do you know the Tanner family? Okay.
We used to work with him.